Okay. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Kathy Burlow, and I'm the founder and president of PDX Veg. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to Cassie Larson's cooking demo on how to create a healthy plant-based meal plan. And Cassie is a whole food plant-based personal chef and nutritionist, and her personal chef services include meal planning, shopping, and cooking and delivering delicious and nutritious food. And you can learn more about all this from her website. And there's a link to that in today's Veg Challenge and also on the event page for this event on the PDX Veg website. And today, Cassie is going to show us how to make 3 tasty and nutritious plant-based dishes, one each for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And there are variations so that you can incorporate them into a healthy plant-based meal plan. And the 3 dishes she's going to show us today are overnight oats, pasta salad, and sheet pan tacos. And we're recording this, so if people haven't been able to make it here, they'll be able to see it. And we're going to put this as a video on our PDX Veg YouTube channel. And we'll be sending that link to everybody who's signed up for this event and also everybody who's taking the challenge. And if you have any questions, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little thing that says Q&A. And if you write them in there, I will keep track of them. And at appropriate pause times, I will read them out to Cassie so that she can answer them. So I think that's everything. And I'll turn it over to Cassie. So thanks so much, Cassie.
Thanks, Kathy. Thank you for coming, especially on such a beautiful day. You could have been outside, but you're here, and I really appreciate that. Thanks for trying to eat less meat and dairy or none at all for our planet, for our health, and for the animals. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're going to cook with me if you are cooking with me. If not, enjoy. Just sit back and enjoy. I thought I'd really quickly go over my story and how I came to be a plant-based personal chef and nutritionist. And it started when I was young and it didn't feel right for me to eat animals when I loved them as much as I did and do. And so I was a vegetarian for a long time, lacto-ovo. And then I kind of lost that for years and was an omnivore, but never felt quite right about it. And then in 2017, my otherwise really healthy 41-year-old husband, who was also very active, had a really sudden out of nowhere heart attack. And it scared me good. And he was on 6 or 7 medications, came home, heart wasn't damaged too badly. So he was, just supposed to go home and see his cardiologist. And I heard the cardiologist tell us, well, there's nothing you can do except take these medications for the rest of your life. And I thought, I'm not a doctor, and I know that's not true because I know there's this doctor named Dean Ornish, and he reverses heart disease in most of his patients with a plant-based diet. So I researched plant-based diets. Our family went plant-based within a week or 2 entirely. We didn't eat oil. We didn't eat any animal products. And after 2 months of eating that way, he went back to his cardiologist. And the cardiologist said, wow, those statins and all those meds we gave you are really working. And he said, I haven't been taking them for 2 months. And the doctor said, whatever you're doing, don't ever stop. So I was at that point sold entirely. And I felt so much better about not eating the animals that I love. I felt more in line with my morals and ethics, and we felt healthier. And I ended up getting my master's in nutrition at NUNM and decided to start my own business as a personal chef and nutritionist. So that's what got me here. And if I could talk to you, I would love to know what brought you here too, but we can't talk. I'm going to go on and just talk about my intentions for today. What I really wanted for you was to have an easy, simple meal plan for an entire day that has enough flexibility in it that you can reuse the recipes over and over and not get too tired of them too soon. So these are to be rotated using the variations. So you start with a template recipe that's basic, and then you add on variations depending on what you have, what you feel like eating, what your family likes or doesn't like. So it's super flexible. And so I thought we would just get started. If you're cooking along with me, I might move a little bit faster than you because I've prepped things if you haven't. and I've started the water boiling, and I've, preheated the oven already. So if you're cooking along and you want to try to keep up with me, get your oven going at 400 and get some water boiling. And if you get too behind and you're trying to cook with me, I will slow down in between steps and talk about things. So hopefully you'll be able to keep up. So oven's at 400, I've got water boiling. I'm gonna crank it up so that it starts to boil fast. I mean, I've got water heating, sorry. I'm cranking it up so it will boil faster. And we will start with pasta. So this is the thing in these 3 recipes that takes the longest. So if you were batch cooking all of this in one day like this, you would cook it all and then throw it in your fridge, pull it out during the week. So because the pasta takes the longest, I'm going to start with that. This is whole wheat pasta, penne, and I love whole wheat grains. We try to eat all whole grains. Sometimes for special occasions we don't, but whole grains have the fiber and the nutrients that are lost when grains are processed to be white. And they're better for your gut, they're better for your digestion, they're better for everything. They'll also have a lower glycemic index. And so when you're eating it, you won't get that, I'm hungry, it's been a half an hour now, I'm hungry again, my blood sugar's low. So that's going in the hot water. And while that cooks or boils, we're going to, I have a list on the wall, by the way, that's why you see me staring off. We're going to, I wanted to talk about gluten-free options. So if you're gluten-free or trying to be gluten-free or you're celiac, if you haven't already tried it, try tinkyada pasta. It's amazingly good. Most people who have tried it tell me they can't tell the difference between that and regular flour pasta. It's made with brown rice, so you're also not getting processed grains. And you can get them in lots of places, Fred Meyer, New Seasons, and they come in a lot of different varieties. If you're okay with gluten, go for the whole wheat. So once that boils, I'm going to throw that in. Because this is a pasta salad and not a hot pasta, I'm going to rinse it somewhere in the middle of this with some cold water and set it aside for later. So putting the pasta in, this stuff cooks for 9 to 11 minutes. I'm going to do 10 or 11 for a pasta salad. I don't want it to be too al dente. Just personal. If you like it al dente, cook it a little bit longer. I mean, a little bit shorter, closer to 9 minutes. Okay, I'm going to set my timer when this water starts to boil, or else it won't be in the boiling water long enough. And hopefully I'll remember to actually set my timer, because sometimes I forget. If you do ever forget to set your timer with pasta, you can always pull out a piece and test it. So don't worry about forgetting your timer. Let's see. While that's boiling, I'm going to set my timer now. 10. While that's boiling, we're going to start the oats. So overnight oats are such a great option, especially in the summer, because you can eat them cold. And in the winter, you can take the contents that you've had in the fridge overnight and just dump them in a pan and warm them up. I also love them because they're portable. If you've got them in a jar, you can just throw the jar in your bag and go. I also love them because they're really versatile. So you can start with a basic base, and I didn't have this prepared like I wanted to, and put the basic base in a jar and in your fridge overnight. So we're going to start with one, can't see. We're going to start with a cup of plant milk. So as far as plant milk goes, I really love Silk organic soy. It is so good. And if you can't find it, almond milk's fine, cashew milk's fine, all of that. Just realized what my whole point was there. Okay, we're going to add a half a cup of oats. Sorry, my head's cut off. 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. You could also use flat ground flax seeds. You don't even have to include the chia seeds. You could also do all chia seeds, just add some more, or you could do all oats. I'm adding a splash of vanilla, and I think this is 2 teaspoons of maple syrup. You could also use agave, coconut sugar. You could also just do no sweetener if you're trying to watch your sugar. And then, best part, when you're making cocktails, shake it really, really well, or you'll get a big clump of chia seeds on the bottom that are like cement, and throw it in the fridge. In the morning, it'll be nice and thick. And then in the morning, you can add whatever you want. On the recipe sheet, I've got a number of different variations, but whatever fruit you have on hand, no fruit, coconut, shredded coconut, anything can be great on there. My favorite lately is blueberries and lemon. So I get a little lemon zest in there, a little lemon juice, and some blueberries, and it's so good. And I'll show you that at the end, just so you can see me sort of finish it. So pasta's boiling. I wish I could get a little take on how you're doing time-wise if you're cooking along, but I'll just trust that you'll figure it out. And it's recorded, so you can always go back. So we've got 7 minutes left on the pasta, and I'm going to talk about pesto. So pesto vegan is extremely easy, and you can still get the cheesy flavor with a little bit of nutritional yeast. You can use any nut, doesn't have to be pine nuts like the traditional recipe, which are so expensive right now. You could use almonds, you could use walnuts, you could use cashews. I'm using crazy expensive pine nuts because I happen to have some in the fridge from a while ago. The other thing I wanted to say is it doesn't have to be oil-based. You can use a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in the pesto, or you can just add water until you get the consistency you want. And it's really still great. You've got the fat from the pine nuts or the nuts, so you're not missing that mouthfeel of the fat, but you're not adding as much oil. Oil is a little bit controversial because some research has shown that it causes some inflammation in the body. There's also some research showing that extra virgin olive oil has some benefits. So it's kind of, I tend to just cut back on oil. I try not to get too rigid about keeping it out of everything, but I have found some ways to reduce the amount of oil I use, and food is still delicious. So I think in this pesto, I am going to add a little bit of oil and water, just because a pasta salad can get kind of pasty and dry as it sits in the fridge, and the oil helps keep things kind of moist and lubricated. That sounded gross. You know what I mean? It doesn't get pasty and dry as fast. So that's the plan. So we're going to make some pesto now. This is one of my favorite things to make because it smells so incredible. We're going to use about 2 cups of basil and just plop it right in your food processor. I don't know if you could use a blender for pesto. I think it would work, but it'd be a little tricky. You'd have to really stir it around in there well, because otherwise you're going to get like, yeah, anyway, complicated. You could try it. And I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of pine nuts. And I'm going to add, this is about 2.5, 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. You can use the flake or the powder kind. If you haven't already experimented with nutritional yeast, I really urge you to give it a shot. It's a cheesy umami flavor that is so good on so many things. And in this case, this is going to kind of give us the sense that there's some Parmesan in there, even though there isn't. You could also use, I haven't tried this, but you could also use store-bought vegan Parmesan, but then you're getting a processed food product and you kind of want to stay away from that when you can. 2 cloves of garlic peeled, just throw them in whole. You don't have to mince, which is so great. And then I'm going to squeeze maybe 1/2 of a big lemon or a whole small lemon in. If you don't have one of these citrus squeezers and you like to cook, I would really recommend getting one. They keep the seeds out. They really squeeze out all of the liquids so well from your citrus. I had such a big lemon that I had to cut it into chunks. So I've got a half a lemon in there now. I'm going to taste it later and decide if I want to add more. And then I've got my water and my oil by the side here, so I don't, so it's handy. I'm also going to add a decent pinch of salt. I'm doing a 4-finger pinch. I might even do 2 4-finger pinches. The pesto is really diluted by all the pasta you're going to mix it up with. And because of that, it does need to be strong tasting. So you really want a lot of salt and a lot of lemon. It might taste, when you taste it, it might taste a little too salty or tangy. And that's kind of what you're going for. All right, so I'm going to pulse this until I've got kind of a paste. And then have a spatula handy so you can scrape down the sides as you go. I'm gonna do that now. Oh my God, that smell. I swear it's one of the best smells in the world. Tell me I'm wrong. Okay, pulse it more. Then I'm gonna just stream in some oil. You can do no oil, you can do a tiny bit of oil, you can do this amount. This is about 1/4 of a cup. I might not add all of it. So I'm going to turn the food processor on. There's a little bit more. Now it's going to start to get scrape it down a little and take a look and see if it's sauce-like. Mine is still chunky or thick and not thin like a sauce. So I'm going to add water until I get it to the consistency I want. So back on again. And okay, this looks amazing. And then at this point, if you like the consistency like I do, you can have a taste. I don't know if you know about this, but there's this thing in cooking called mother spoon, and I love this tip. You have a mother spoon. I always use a bigger spoon for the mother spoon, and that is the spoon that you scoop out the. I just turned the timer off, so I have no idea how much time is left on the pasta. Reality. So then you put your food that you're going to taste on a smaller spoon. That's your tasting spoon. Your mother spoon is the only spoon that goes back in, and you're keeping it germ-free. If you're only cooking for your family, you know, whatever, but it's kind of a nice tip for food safety. I need to run this a little bit longer. And while I run it, I'm gonna check the noodles or the pasta. Pasta's looking good, or tasting good. It's just right. I'm going over to the sink to strain it. For some reason, the strainer is not where I put it. So after you strain, rinse with cold water. You don't want warm noodles for pasta salad, and you don't want them to continue to cook from the heat. So I'm rinsing with cold water. Sorry, you can't see me. Until they feel cold to the touch. And then I'm going to set them aside for later. Oh, by the way, that was a 16-ounce package of pasta. We could do a half a box if you wanted to cook less. Usually I use most of the 16 ounces to go along with that pesto sauce. But having leftover pasta to me is a great thing, because my 7-year-olds like to eat just pasta with a little bit of olive oil and salt. So that's always kind of on hand when I have extra pasta. So rinse and drain and set aside. And once you've got your pesto, the consistency you want, You can set that aside too. We're gonna need that later. So
Hmm.
that's kind of the consistency I'm going for.
Mhm.
Setting that aside. And I need just a second here because I've got to, in my small kitchen, I have to move things around, but I don't have room. Do the next thing. So on our list next is, oh, I was going to talk about variations for pesto. That was a basil pesto, so your classic basil pesto. But if you've got greens, various greens sitting around, arugula is a really good one. Even spinach, you can make an arugula pesto, you can make a spinach basil pesto, you can make a cilantro pesto. It's a really great way to use up greens that you have that are almost going to go bad. And as long as you really hit it with lemon and salt and pepper, I forgot to put pepper in that basil pesto. It's delicious no matter what greens you use. I think, yeah, even kale tastes great. I've tried kale. All right. I'll add pepper to the pesto later. I can remember to. So next, oh, maybe I should slow down a little bit. If you're trying to catch up, I'm going to talk a little bit about the crema before I start making it. So this is a pourable sauce that I make constantly and that I absolutely love on bowls, tacos, burritos, just about anything, anything. It's even great as a salad dressing if you thin it a little bit. It is something that I make in my high-powered blender. This is a Blendtec, and I've had it for over a decade, and it's just wonderful. If you have a Vitamix or a Blendtec, great. If you don't, that's okay. There are a couple of ways around this. So I'm making this sauce with cashews. These are just raw cashews. Best place to get them is Costco. If you can afford to get a big container of them at a time, it's cheaper at Costco than anywhere else that I've found. Although Winco might be a good option too. To the cashews. If you don't have a powerful blender, if you just have a standard Oster or whatever, soak these overnight. If you forget to soak, that's cool too. You can use cashew butter. It'll work the same. If cashews are too expensive, you can do a lot of different things. You can do sunflower seeds, you can do hemp seeds, you can do almonds. Did I already say almonds? Walnuts. You can try all kinds of different things. What you're looking for is a creamy base. So we're going to do this crema with cashews, and I'm going to add some chipotle peppers from the jar in the adobo sauce, and I'm going to add lime juice and salt, and that's pretty much it. If you have nut allergies, go for the seeds, is what I was going to say. So sunflower seeds, hemp seeds make a great sauce. All right, so cashews are going in. Forgot, oh, I know what I was going to say. The chipotle peppers in adobo sauce are so good, and they're such a great addition to so many things. But it's always, what always happens to me is I open up a can of it, use one pepper for a sauce. They're pretty spicy. And then I have this can, this big can, nearly full of peppers that just sit in the fridge forever. So what I figured out is put them, divide them up into ice cube trays, and freeze them, and then pop them into a bag. And then you can just pop out one, or you can just use one of those cubes. Even in this sauce, you can just use them frozen. So this is a slightly thawed chipotle pepper with a little bit of the sauce. If you like spicy, you can add way more. If you don't like spicy, you can add less. If you don't want to add the chipotle peppers at all, you still got a delicious plain crema, which works just as well. Or you could also add a little chipotle powder if you don't have the peppers in adobo sauce. So I've got cashews, I've got the chipotle peppers. I'm gonna add water. Just a second, where did my water go? I am gonna add, I think it says, sorry. a 1/2 to 3/4 cup water. That was a cup of cashews, by the way. I don't know if I said that. I'm gonna add a little bit of water, 1/2 cup maybe. You can always add more as you go until you get the consistency you want. Then I'm gonna add a little bit of lime juice with my using my amazing little juicer. Then I love this thing so much. 1/2 a lime. You can always add more too if you want more tang. 1/2 a lime seems to work for me. And a good pinch of salt. I usually add like a 4-finger pinch and then go back and add a tiny bit more. If you're trying to avoid salt, just don't add it. Still will be good, especially if you're used to the taste of low salt foods. So we've got the lime juice, we've got the cashews, we've got the chipotle peppers, and I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of garlic powder and 1 teaspoon of onion powder. You could also add a clove of fresh garlic, just peel it before you throw it in. It's got so much flavor though that I don't really see the need. I just add powdered. And you can add pepper too, but I'm not going to since I have the chipotle pepper in there too. So I'm going to blend until smooth and I'm going to taste it and then adjust from there. Get my head. Classic. I'm going to run it again because it's a little too chunky and I'm going to add a little more water because it's really thick. So not pourable yet. So I'll add a little more water. That was probably a couple tablespoons. Run it again. I don't know exactly how long I blend. I don't go by time, I go by consistency. And once you've got a nice creamy sauce that's not gritty anymore, you can taste test it and see what you need to add. So I'm going to use my mother spoon so I don't get my goodies in here, and I'm going to try it from my actual tasting spoon. I am going to add a little more lime and a tiny bit more salt. I just recently learned that if you're trying to stay away from salt, if you have hypertension, or any other condition that means you need to reduce your salt intake, that miso, for some reason, even though it's full of salt, doesn't have the effect on your blood pressure as other forms of salt do. So you can use miso as a salt substitute if you're trying to reduce your salt intake, which I think is really cool. Blending again. Not yet. I'm gonna add a little more salt. That was a 4-finger pinch. If you don't have a little salt vessel like this, just put your salt in a bowl and use your fingers. You can do a 1-finger pinch, which is like a dash, a 2-finger pinch, which is like 1/2 teaspoon, and a 4-finger, 3-finger, and 4-finger, and so on. If you get that sort of down, you can guesstimate really, really well how much you're putting in and not have to use a teaspoon or measuring spoon at all. Blending again. Gonna add that to this jar and put it aside for later. So we have our crema for the tacos done. I'm gonna move this out of the way. Another quick tip is, kitchen tip is, if you wear an apron, throw a towel into the waistband. And it's right there when you need it to dry things off, wipe things off. You can even use it to grab hot things out of the oven as long as it doesn't get wet, so then the steam will burn you. So we are gonna make sheet pan tacos. And the reason I love sheet pan tacos, and I use them over and over again in our menu rotation, is that they're extremely versatile. You can use up produce that you have sitting in your fridge. They're so yummy. And then the best part, I think, is that they're really hands-off. So while the veggies are roasting in the oven, you can do other things. Like make the crema, do some dishes, clear off your workspace, or just kick back, which I love. And I'm gonna grab my cutting board and we'll go over some of the knife skills. Don't already know them. I'm gonna use portobellos. They had these beautiful ones at the grocery store today. They're huge and perfect. You could use any mushroom you want. You could not use mushrooms if you're not a mushroom fan. I like mushrooms for the meaty aspect of them. If you want something that's kind of a meat replacement, soy curls are really great for these tacos. You just have to soak them beforehand, and marinating them works really well. So I'm gonna slice up my portobellos in maybe like 1/2 inch thick slices. I don't mind big old pieces like this. It's kind of fun. It's kind of like, this is going to be sort of like a fajita mixture. And once I have these veggies cut up, I'm going to throw them right on my baking sheet. And my baking sheet is lined with parchment paper. And then I don't even have to clean the baking sheet later. If you have a Silpat, which are these silicone mats that you can put in your baking sheet, that's great too. You just have to clean it later, but it saves paper. And you can also just go straight on your baking sheet. That's fine too. You just need to add a little bit of oil, unless you don't mind scraping a little bit later. So I think I'm gonna do 4. No, I'm gonna do 2 portobellos. Mainly just because I'm running out of room on my baking sheet. If you have several baking sheets, you can do it all at the same time, or you can do several. You can cook all of it on one baking sheet and then do another round after that round is done, if you need more room. Cutting up a bell pepper. This is my favorite way to cut them up. There are other ways that may work for you too, but what I do is I just go around the outside, chopping off sort of the lobes. And then I'm left with the core, which I don't want. Sometimes, because I don't like to waste, I'll just cut off that bottom section too. And then I've got this awkward little thing, but that's okay. And then this goes in the compost. Which brings me to another great tip that it's one of my favorite things. I have a compost bowl right next to me. You could use your compost container as well. That way I can just toss the plant parts that I'm not going to use right away, and they're out of my way. So I'm cutting up these red peppers into decent sized strips. I don't want them to get too soft and mushy while they bake. So I'm going to use a pretty big slice. You could do even bigger and it would still turn out great, I think. So I'm going to do a little bit of red pepper. I'm going to do a little bit of yellow just for color. It's really washed out. I'm going to cut the lobes off. Cut the bottom off. Toss the core. slices, throw them on your pan. You could also cut up a red onion into nice big chunks and throw that on. I usually do that, but I'm running out of room. I only want to use one cookie sheet today for time's sake. So some yellow, and then I'm going to do some green too. So lobes gone. Bottom. Compost. Slice. Throw them on. These will all cook at approximately the same rates. So you don't have to worry about, having to take the mushrooms out first because they're getting too cooked before the peppers are done or anything like that. They're gonna do just fine together. If you ever are cooking or baking, roasting veggies, and some pieces are going to be done before others, you can keep them in their sections and then you can just remove the sections that are cooking faster than the others. Set them aside. These veggies tend to dry out a little bit in the oven. You can toss them with a little bit of broth if you're avoiding oil. I'm going to use just a tiny spray of avocado oil. This spray is great because it keeps you from over oiling your foods. It's also avocado oil, which has a really high smoking point, which is good for roasting. I'm roasting at 400, so I definitely want an oil that can get up to those heats without smoking. You don't want your oil to smoke. That's not great to breathe in, and it's not good to ingest. So quick spray. And then I'm going to add some taco seasoning. If you're short on time, just get a taco seasoning from the store. This is Spicely Organics taco seasoning. If you have the time, it's really great to make your own spice mix because there's no additives and because you can, make the amount that you really need. Sometimes you buy a spice mix, use it once, and then it's lost in the back of your pantry until 4 years later. So I'm going to sprinkle this on pretty heavily. I did not measure. I would say that was 2 tablespoons. I'm going to use maybe a 4-finger pinch of salt. And then I'm just going to use my hands to toss. With these tacos, just about any veggie works. I've done asparagus, I've done snap peas, I've done root vegetables. Root vegetables turn out really great with these tacos. I got my inspiration for making just random roasted veggie tacos from Porque No, because they have these veggie tacos that are seasonal. And they just put like anything in them, any veggies that are seasonal, and they are so good. And that was kind of a realization to me that you can just put whatever you want in a taco and it's amazing. So these are going in. I am gonna check them in 15 minutes. No, I'm gonna check them in 10. My oven runs a little hot. And then if they need more time, put them back in. So next up is making the salad. So the pasta salad is so awesome because I really need this light on. Sorry, it's kind of washing things out, but it's helping me see. So the pasta salad is fantastic. Again, it's portable. You can pop it in a container and take it to work. It doesn't need reheating, which is kind of nice, especially in the summer. And it's so incredibly versatile. You switch out the veggies and the dressing, and you've got a whole new pasta salad. You can add protein like chickpeas or tofu. You can add, if you're doing store-bought vegan products, you can add store-bought cheese chunks. You can buy store-bought plant-based meat chunks, like cold cut type stuff. You can do whatever you want. Be creative and don't be afraid of going away from a recipe. If you stick with a theme like Greek or Mexican or Indian, those flavors belong together. You will do okay, trust me. So I already cut up the tomatoes that are going to go in this caprese pesto pasta because they take forever and they're tedious. If you need time to do that, sorry, I just wanted to get it over with. So I'm gonna add those to the pasta. I have seen this nifty trick on social media where you put your cherry tomatoes all out flat on a cutting board, and then you stick like a plate on top, and then take your knife and go like this, and you cut them all in half at once. No, tried that. It was really difficult and annoying, and it was easier just to do them one by one. I just kind of zone out and listen to a podcast. So I got a big bowl, and I'm gonna add that pasta. But I'm not gonna add it all at once. I'm going to add a portion of it, just to make sure that the pesto that I made is enough. I don't want to find out after I've mixed it all together that it wasn't enough pesto for that pasta, because I like a lot of pesto on my pasta. I don't want it dry. So I'm gonna throw in, I did about 2/3 maybe. No, half. I did about half the noodles. I can add more later. And then I'm gonna take my pesto, I'm gonna take the blade out. Otherwise it's gonna fall into my pasta. Learn that hard. And with my spatula, scrape it all in. So instead of pesto, this could be Italian dressing. This could be Greek dressing. This could be a creamy sauce, like a queso, a vegan queso sauce. It could be that Chipotle cashew crema, just thinned with a little bit of water. And you could make some kind of a Mexican inspired pasta salad. Corn, black beans, red pepper, that kind of thing. I'm gonna mix up the pesto and the pasta. So this is too much pesto, I can tell already, which is great because I don't want to go the other way too soon, because then you can't really come back from that unless you want to make another batch of pesto. So I'm going to add a little more pasta. If you're not already there, once you become a little more confident in the kitchen, which just takes time, and lots and lots of practice, you can slowly sort of leave the recipes behind and kind of go with your taste buds and your eyes. And cooking becomes just so much more creative and fun. And yeah, you do make some bummers here and there. You really, you have the mistakes, that's for sure. But then you learn. You learn what not to do. So, I need to keep these nearby. So then, once the pasta and the pesto are stirred up really well, I'm gonna add the halved cherry tomatoes. I just have a mixture of yellow and red ones. You can do whatever you want. I wouldn't cut up a slicing tomato for this. They just have too much juice and seeds inside for this salad. You could also do red pepper, a little bit of red onion, which by the way should be called purple onions. Sorry, but it's incorrect. You can add a little red onion. You can add Kalamata olives. You could add all kinds of things. What I like to do with this particular pasta salad is make a plate. And then, gosh darn it, add some dollops of ricotta. That's where we're getting the caprese feel for this salad. This is Kite Hill ricotta, which is an amazing brand. They're local, I think, too. Everything they make is, the ingredient list is amazing. This one is almond milk, salt, enzymes, tartaric acid, and cultures. So a lot of just whole foods in there. And also, what I love about Kite Hill is they don't use, or at least I don't think they do, they don't use coconut oil in their vegan cheese products. Coconut oil is really high in saturated fats. And when my husband had his heart attack, we realized we had been eating coconut oil a ton because the popular idea then was that coconut oil was this health food. And you know, if you don't have any kind of heart condition that you know of, saturated fat here and there isn't a horrible thing necessarily. But for somebody who has had a heart attack, staying away from saturated fat is pretty important. So we learned that Kite Hill products are a time saver and no coconut oil, which I love. So I've added some ricotta, and then I've got some basil that I'm just going to sprinkle on because it's pretty. And so we've got a pasta salad ready to go. I would add the ricotta only when you're serving. That way it doesn't get kind of mixed in with everything, and you kind of lose the impact of it in the dish. If you store this in the fridge, which you should, and it gets a little bit, what am I trying to say? There's a word for it. It gets a little stiff and no longer is like loose. Just add a couple splashes of water and stir it up again. And you'll get that nice consistency. The other thing we need to do while our veggies are roasting, and I'm just going to give this a look. We need about 8 more minutes, I think. The other thing we need to do is heat up some beans if you want to do beans in your tacos. I love to do beans because the more protein we can get in our meals, the longer it takes for us to get hungry again. And with 7-year-olds, that's really helpful because when 7-year-olds get hungry, they're not nice. And I don't like that. So we add some beans. You can also, like I said, do soy curls or tofu, and those can just go on the sheet pan. In this case, I'm just going to use regular old black beans, and I'm not even going to drain them or rinse them because I like them saucy. If you want to drain and rinse, you can. My favorite for this dish is these seasoned black beans that I get at Fred Meyer. It's like the Kroger organic brand. I forget what that stuff is called. Simple something, I don't know. Anyway, they're already seasoned, which is really easy when you have when you're really busy and don't have much time for dinner. But in this case, I'm going to add some of this taco seasoning. I added a tablespoon maybe. Then I'm just going to warm it up. I have mine on medium. And stir. And then this can just stay on warm on your stovetop while you're getting everything else ready. I use a straining spoon to get the beans out so that I don't have runny tacos because nobody likes a runny taco. Back burner. So we've got our veggies roasting, we've got our beans warming, we've got our crema done. The last thing to do for the tortillas is to warm up for the tacos, is to warm up the tortillas. I do this on a dry pan. It could be non-stick. This is a non-stick pan. It could be cast iron. Cast iron is especially great for this actually, because it gets nice and hot. I don't know why I can't. There we go. You just can't see my head now. I'm using Three Sisters. They are more expensive, but they're local, and it's a women-owned business, and they are delicious. I also love to make my own tortillas. If you're at all interested, check that out online, the process. It's not that difficult. It does take a lot of time, but it's not difficult. And it makes for the most delicious tortillas. There's a huge difference between homemade tortillas and store-bought, even wonderful Three Sisters. I'm throwing in a tortilla into the pan. The pan's not hot enough yet. I just tossed it in a little too early. And I'm gonna let it get hot on one side. I'm doing this on medium-high heat. You wanna get a little bit of brownish, maybe even blackish around the edges And you want them to get nice and soft. If you don't warm them up like this and you try to make a taco, they will break and they taste kind of tough and dry and not very good. You can also wrap a stack of these in foil and put them in the oven at 300 for about 15-20 minutes. Or microwave them. I don't know how long though, because I don't have a microwave. Why did I open this drawer? What am I doing? I was going to show you a tortilla press. Pardon the noise. If you don't already know about a tortilla press, they're cast iron, or at least mine is. They're very simple, very cheap. And if you make your own tortillas, you can buy masa, which is the corn flour used to make tortillas. You add water and sometimes a little bit of salt, and you let it sit for a half hour or more, and then you make it into balls, put it in the press, and you got a tortilla. And then you just cook them for a few minutes on each side in a hot pan. It's really fun. Kids love to help with this. And again, you will not have a better tasting tortilla than ones you make at home. So if you have the time, I highly recommend that. If you do have the time, you can make them and freeze them and have them anytime. You can make up a huge batch. It just will take a while. It's a whole project. But otherwise, get store-bought. You could also make this into a burrito with some whole wheat tortillas and just proceed like you would any burrito. Ooh, okay. The beans are getting hot. I don't want them to get too hot and boil, so I'm just going to put this on low now just to keep them warm. The tortilla is getting nice and flexible. It hasn't gotten any char on it yet, but that's okay. I'm gonna put all of my warm tortillas in a towel. I like this big, long towel because it gives me enough room to sort of wrap the tortillas up, keep them warm. I have a warming drawer underneath here. I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't. It's just a drawer that pops out underneath the oven and it warms up just slightly, not like it's going to cook anything. And I can put stuff down there. But if you don't have that, that's fine. Just stack them up in a towel. Okay. I've also found that to save time, because this does take forever, you can do more than one at a time, and they still heat up well. So I'm going to do 3 at a time. You could also do this on a big, the word escapes me. Anyway, a big hot surface, that's called. And then you don't have to do just a few at a time. You can do a lot more at a time. So these are warming up. I'm not going to warm up the whole package because why? We only need to make one taco right now. And I'm going to check on the veggies, see how they're looking. I am looking for a little bit of browning on the edges and just tenderness. So they could use a little more time, but honestly, they could also be delicious right now. I'm going to give it 4 minutes since I'm making these tortillas anyway. Okay, so these are steaming, getting soft. I'm going to flip them. You can use an implement to flip these, but I've kind of gotten asbestos hands over the years, constantly touching hot things. Try to stay away from white flour tortillas. Again, you've got that processed flour, higher glycemic index, so a little harder on your blood sugar and your insulin, and just better for your gut too, more fiber. The more fiber, the better. You want to feed those little critters in your gut, because if they are doing well, they're a huge part of your mental health, because a lot of the important chemicals like serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine are actually created partly by the critters in your gut, not just your brain. So fiber is the way to feed those guys and keep them happy. Now I'm getting a little bit of char, which is really great. Just gonna flip those, give them a few more minutes, a few more moments on this side, and then put them in my towel for later. Need a slotted spoon. And an hour, okay. All right, so those go in my towel for later, and then I'm gonna plate this up so you can kind of see how it goes. Again, really sorry if I'm going too fast for that, but kind of have to move along. So to plate, you're going to pause. I'm gonna take out those veggies first. That would be helpful. So veggies here. I've got my crema ready to go. I've got a little bit of cilantro if you like it. I've got my tortilla. I'm gonna scoop up some of the beans and let them drain a little bit. If you like them saucy like I do, you're gonna need to drain it all. Beans go down the middle. Don't overdo it or you'll have an overstuffed taco and it's just no fun. A mushroom or two, a few of my asbestos hands are not asbestos enough just to grab those. A few of the peppers. I usually would have added some red onion, purple onion, but didn't have time. And then this magical elixir that makes everything taste so incredible. The crema, a little bit of cilantro or a lot if you're me. And then I add a little bit of hot sauce. I don't know if you're hot sauce people, but I'm really loving Yellowbird right now. There's a green one, there's a jalapeno one, there's a habanero one. They're all so good. Add a little bit of hot sauce and go to town. Sorry to eat on camera, but I'm really hungry. I'm telling you that crema, so good. They're gonna freak out. So that's your dinner. So let me chew. You have overnight oats for breakfast, you have pasta salad for lunch, and you have tacos for dinner, or burritos, or a bowl. Another thing you can do with your sheet pan veggies is throw them in a bowl with some grains and that crema over it, and you've got a bowl for dinner. You can also just serve this as is with beans for a nice veggie and bean dish, which is great too. So finally, we're going to finish those oats. So I'm going to move this out of the way. These two out of the way. And grab the oats. So we're going to pretend that these oats have been in here overnight. If they have been in there overnight, they're going to be nice and thick. And you want to give it one more shake because you're going to have chia seeds kind of stuck to the bottom and gelled into like a clump. So I give it a really good shake. So I've been making this lately and I have been a little bit obsessed with this flavor combo. Lemon and blueberry are just naturals together, but they're so good somehow in the summer. So I've got a zester. These are wonderful. You're going to want one if you don't already have one. And a well-washed lemon because you're going to use the zest. So I'm just zesting right into my jar. I like doing this last minute right before eating, not the night before. It just seems like the flavor is a little bit more bright. I have no idea how much I'm putting in. I put it in until my heart says stop. I really love lemon zest. And then I also like to add just a little bit of lemon juice for more lemon flavor. And then I go crazy with the blueberries. Blueberries are one of the healthiest fruits out there. they are full of antioxidants and phytonutrients, these chemicals that fight off the free radicals that cause inflammation and all kinds of issues in our bodies. Try to eat blueberries every day if you can. I know they're pricey. Frozen ones are a cheaper way to go. So I stir it all up and it's ready to go. And even having only been in the fridge for an hour, this is already nice and thick, and I would totally eat it now. So good. I'm telling you. Okay. So that's your day's meals. Unless you really don't like eating the same things over and over again, that could get you through 2 to 3 days, maybe more, depending on how big your serving sizes are. Once you feel sort of secure making those recipes, you can branch out and do so many things with just those basic templates. And then you can also feel more confident in the kitchen and ready to try brand new recipes you've never tried before, unless you're already confident in the kitchen. I find that once I've mastered a recipe from by the letter, I then feel like, okay, I understand this recipe, and now I feel confident enough to play with the parts of it and use what I have, for example, instead of what the recipe says to use, or use more of this and less of that. So I really recommend learning a few core recipes that you love and getting them down pat, and then using creativity and intuition and what you have on hand to go from there. I hope you enjoyed those recipes. I hope you love how they taste, but I also really hope you love how they make you feel. The combination of feeling like I'm in alignment with my ethics when it comes to animals, and knowing that I'm doing something that's helping my body and something that's helping the planet, is just this incredible combination that I would love everyone to experience. And I wanted to recommend a couple of cooks and chefs and websites that you might want to check out if you don't already know about them, for some more inspiration and some more incredibly easy, lovely recipes. So first, I'd like to recommend Forks Over Knives. If you haven't already watched the documentary or checked out the website, do so. It's really interesting. The recipe website has so many recipes, and they're constantly making new ones. The app is great because it's constantly updating with new recipes, so you don't get bored. And then they also have a cookbook or two. I think I have one of them. I think there's more than one. And then Carly Bodrug, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's Bodrug, and her first name is Carly, but it's not spelled with a Y, it's spelled with an EIGH. If you Google Plant You, YOU, you'll find her. Her recipes are really simple and unbelievably delicious and reliable. Check her out. I have her cookbook called Plant You, and I've used it several times, and every time I've been super happy. Drina Burton has a great website and great cookbooks. Her food is delicious. It's all whole food plant-based. So far, every reference I've mentioned is whole food plant-based, so no oil, no processed food, all plants. And then lastly is Minimalist Baker. She no longer uses only vegan recipes, but the archives contain so many delicious vegan recipes. She is not whole food plant-based. She, in the way that she doesn't include, she includes oils, coconut oil, and sometimes a little more processed stuff, but you can still find inspiration there for sure. Her recipes are really, really great. And her website's just beautiful and easy to use too. So we're at an hour, and I want to know, oh, can you freeze the crema? That's a great question. Yes. You can freeze it and then just try to remember the day before to get it starting to thaw. And then you can shake it up and it should be great. So Kathy, I thought if anybody else has any questions they want to ask
Now would be a
now,
good time to ask if they do.
yeah. And if not, I think that's kind of it, unless I'm forgetting
That was
something.
really great. That was wonderful.
Thank you. I hope it was helpful.
Made me very hungry too.
I know, I'm so hungry right now.
But don't be shy, people. If there's something that you want advice about, now's the time.
I'm trying to think if anything else can be frozen. These aren't great freezing recipes. The sauces, pesto. Pesto is great to freeze. You can make a huge batch if you have a ton of basil from your garden, for example. Put them in ice cube trays. Put it in ice cube trays, and once those are frozen, pop them in a Ziploc bag and stick them in your freezer. And then you just pull it out, thaw it, and you can make summery pesto pasta anytime.
We also
What's the substitute for Parmesan I used? I just used nutritional yeast. The combination of the nutritional yeast and the pine nuts is cheesy enough to kind of give you that feel of Parmesan. You can also buy a vegan store-bought Parmesan. I'm trying to think of there's a couple of different brands. The one I like is not coming to me, sorry. Maybe it'll come to me later. You're welcome, Darlene.
And the recipes are already on our Veg Challenge website. They're in the email from today's challenge, and they're also in the event site where you registered. So those are, and then there'll also be, if I can manage this is all going to be a YouTube, and if I can get the link right, they'll be on the YouTube link too.
I don't think there's any last one. Oh, you're welcome, Michael. It was so great to cook with all of you. I wish I could meet all of you and talk to all of you.
This
That'd be
was
fun.
wonderful. It was clear and fun. And
yeah, I hope I didn't go too fast. I hope you could keep up if you were cooking. I'm curious how many of you were cooking, but I can't do a show of hands, I guess. Pantry staples. Ooh, great question. I love that question. And I've been wanting to have a running list so that I can, like a PDF of this. This is such a good question. So I would say tamari, coconut aminos, or soy sauce, depending on what you need. If you've got a soy allergy, go with the cocoa aminos. Wheat allergy, go with tamari, I think. Anyway, so some kind of soy sauce type thing. Vinegars. I love to have rice vinegar, white vinegar, red vinegar. Those are kind of the main ones. Yeah. Oh, balsamic on hand at all times. And then I would say a good variety of spices. Don't feel bad about buying spice mixes. They're such a great shortcut. And then I would say nutritional yeast is a big one. Cashews, almonds, walnuts, salt and pepper, miso. I know that's not a pantry one, but it's I use it regularly. And you can buy some brands that are shelf stable until you open them. What else? There's so much more. I need to, some oil if you want to do oil. Red wine vinegar. No, I'm sorry. What am I saying? Apple cider vinegar is one that I always have on hand. Molasses, strangely enough, is one that I always have on hand for certain baking projects. Coconut sugar is a good sugar alternative. It tastes and smells so delicious. Maple syrup, different kinds of beans, all different kinds of beans, different kinds of grains. It's really fun to experiment with types of grains you haven't eaten yet. There are so many out there. Some really unusual ones. Lentils along with other kinds of beans. I already said nuts. Let me just look real quick at my pantry little. It's like, oh, peanut butter, almond butter. Those are huge. Seeds, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, hemp seeds, chia seeds. I don't know if you want me to keep going because I can. different kinds of salts. It's kind of fun to have too if you're doing salt. Oh, I wanted to say that I use a pink Himalayan salt, but Celtic sea salt's also supposed to be really good. You do want to watch out for iodine deficiencies if you're not using iodine supplemented salt. I haven't used iodine salt in years and I haven't had any issues yet, but apparently that can be a thing. You can also mix a really nice pink Himalayan or Celtic sea salt with some iodine type table salt and have a blend, and then you're still getting your iodine. You can get iodine in some foods, but it's not as easy. So it's good to supplement here and there.
Then also in the email that I sent out before the first challenge, there were a bunch of links to different people's pantry staples. So if you still got that email, that could be helpful too.
That's great. Yeah, and I would say if you're starting out and you don't want to invest in any expensive equipment, that the most important equipment to have is a really good knife. You can get an expensive chef's knife, or you can get a less expensive chef's knife, but a really as good as you can afford. A great chopping board, cutting board. Mine is made of latex, natural latex, which is cool because bacteria can't proliferate on it like it can on wood because it's not absorbent. It's also, it doesn't get like scratched up. It kind of self-heals and it's super easy to wash. It is a little heavy. So that's my tip for a cutting board. They're also a little pricey, but they'll last you, I think, forever. And you're not going to have to worry about it building up bacteria. And then like the more expensive appliances, like an air fryer and an Instant Pot, I'm looking at all of mine because I have them all, and an expensive blender, you don't really need those in the beginning. You can get by really well with the less expensive stuff. Thanks, Julie. I'm glad you liked it. Oh yeah, my cutting board, sure. It's not pretty. My wood one was really pretty, but it's so much better to know that I'm not getting bacteria buildup. That's it. It's nice and hard. I accidentally heated it up once. I forget what happened. It was a big mistake. And it got like flexible, but then it went back to normal. It's really durable. I think we got it on Amazon. Again, pricey, but so far it's been worth it. And it's better than a plastic cutting board too, because you're not being exposed to the chemicals in plastics. Yeah. Kathy, are you still there?
I'm still there. And
okay, great.
If anybody wants to ask anything more, we still have some time, but otherwise, thanks everybody for coming.
Thanks, everybody. I had a great time.
I did too.
Hope you did too, everybody.
Yeah. So any final questions from anybody?
If you do think of anything, just get in touch with me through my website. If anybody, I guess we could also send you my email later. I'm fine with that.
And you could also contact me and I could send your email to these people too.
Great. That'd be great. Yeah. Any questions you have, I'm here.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Cassie. This was really great. And
you're welcome. It was really fun.
We will have this all. Wait, is there another? I think that was all the questions. So
cool.
I think I'm going to stop recording.
Okay.